As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast, John and Wade. They'll talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Vince and Triple H. Review a SmackDown. 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 Review a SmackDown.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Review a SmackDown. I am John Pollock, joined by, I know everyone at home is crossing their fingers, the still jet-lagged Wai Ting. Are you still jet-lagged?
No.
Damn
not at all.
it.
I don't know.
Wai, the reaction on Monday was glorious.
Oh.
People loved you.
Yeah, okay. That's cool.
Different
Thanks.
side of you.
They
No
love
F's
it.
to give.
They love hearing me miserable, apparently.
See, that's usually my role, and I'm the one that drags your enjoyment down.
Oh, that's not true. I wouldn't say that. I would say it depends on the show, largely.
Today on the show, we're going to run down SmackDown first, but for those that download the show, we are not just going to have feedback, but for the downloadable version, me and Wai
We should be clear. It's the downloadable audio version.
Oh, yeah.
Because people could assume that you could download video as well, but no.
Yeah,
you
you're
mean
right.
Like the audio.
The downloadable audio version of Review a SmackDown.
Yeah.
The big granddaddy of them all.
Which is usually way longer than the video version that you can't download. You can stream.
Yeah.
Streamable video. It's way more intense. Like, it's just, I sweat during it. You can't hear the sweat, obviously, but I shake and I sweat.
Yeah, I have to look down because it's awkward to stare. Wai and I will be discussing American Vandal.
That's the main event.
Highlight of the show.
Yeah.
When you gave me that news at the end of Review a Raw, I was excited.
Well, we will dissect episode by episode, fact by fact.
Scene by scene.
Yeah.
Time per dick. We'll go through all of it. TPD.
For people who don't know what American Vandal is, that probably sounded really funny.
One of the most amazing shows. Okay, that's coming up later. First of all, going into Tuesday's SmackDown, what was the reaction you got afterwards? Because we were discussing the invasion moments after we watched it.
Yeah.
Some loved it, some hated it. And what was the reaction you've seen?
That I've seen, I would say that it would vary depending on where I saw the reaction. I would say our audience, maybe audiences that perhaps skew older or maybe more towards our taste in professional wrestling, felt the same way that we did, pointing out a lot of the logical characterizations of the show. But I think younger or maybe different audiences with different tastes, I don't want to generalize and say that they're younger, but a lot of people liked
These
it.
millennials.
Just simply for
The Bradens.
Yeah, just simply for, I guess, how fun they felt the segment was, and
If you were to
see their
just
point, yes.
If you were to just watch it, I think out of context, I didn't really have any. It was a fine angle. It was something different. It was certainly built up some heat. But to me, I watch this with context. I watch every single week. I know what the Raw SmackDown dynamic is for 11 months of the year. And you even pointing out something as simple as the Gable Jordan thing, which was brought up on SmackDown. Like all these little things, guys working together that the next night hate one another. It's just, you really have to suspend your logic to get into it. And I couldn't on Monday.
I've heard some people justify that this was almost you have to almost treat this as sort of a non-canonical edition of
I love it.
wrestling.
Non-canonical.
Yeah, something that's like a special edition show where we're putting aside current storylines for the time being so that we can do this special edition show, like an all-star game, essentially. You know?
Well, can they give us a warning? Because I guess Tuesday was back to canonical. Monday was off. Survivor Series will be on. Way too much for me.
I wouldn't have had an issue at all. I thought the treatment of the segment itself, the presentation of the segment was actually strong. It's the lead up to it that I feel like you needed a bit of explanation in order to, first of all, emphasize the importance of the angle, and also to just feel less lazy. You know what I mean?
You want me to simplify it? 2 weeks ago, Michael Cole replaces Tom Phillips. Did any of us complain? Did any of us say, what's going on? None of us did, because no one takes this as a rivalry. It's, of course, this is all WWE. Michael Cole's filling in for Tom Phillips. Corey Graves is on both shows. There's zero rivalry. There's zero grudge. There's zero, oh, I wonder which is the better brand. No one debates this stuff. No one treats this like a rivalry until tonight we're told, treat this as a blood feud.
There are no stakes attached to it, so I can't justify why babyfaces from SmackDown would willingly go as far and to do something as out of character as attacking an innocent PA backstage. And what, for brand supremacy? That's not something...
Hashtag under siege.
That's not something Shinsuke Nakamura would sit on the sidelines and applaud. It's not something AJ Styles would sit on the sidelines and applaud.
Who was part of this entire gang? This drove me nuts afterwards when I was thinking about it. The Lone Wolf. The Lone Wolf joining the rest of the roster. I mean, Baron Corbin has been isolated from everybody on this roster. He's got no friends.
Yeah.
He hates everybody. And here he is with his big blue shirt joining the pack of wolves.
Yeah. And I think it's those specific characterizations that kind of really bothered me about the segment. But if you disagree with us, please let us know.
No, don't. Agree with us 100% of the time.
If you disagree, do not let us know. Keep it to yourselves.
The best was this exchange. Wade Keller, I think, was very much... and I didn't hear his reaction to the angle, but I saw his tweets where I think he was bringing up a lot of the continuity we were. And he ends up going back and forth with Dolph Ziggler. And he challenges Dolph, saying, what was the motivation of your character to assist Shane, who you have complained about being disrespected on your own show? And Dolph came back, and I don't want to paraphrase. He came back with his defense of kind of joining the team or whatever. But it was, these are basic questions that, listen, American Vandal was a show that was airtight when it came to logic. I want the same thing, or at least a percentage of it, in my wrestling storylines. Yeah. Why do I have to just lax my own criteria that I would hold accountable to American Vandal, which is one of the stupidest concepts in history? But my God, did it make sense. They went through, that entire series is built up of what possible hole could anyone call into question in any of this, and we will spend every episode addressing these holes and filling in every ounce of logic possible to make this logical for the person watching this. That's that whole show. No one is raving about the fact that, wow, this is the best series about a dick I have ever watched. They're watching it because it's brilliantly constructed.
Well, I think this was a great
Imagine if the Raw locker room, the final shot is them going out to the parking lot and all their rental cars have been spray painted.
With what?
With giant blue paint in the shape of dicks. And that's our cliffhanger.
That'd be amazing.
Would be very topical.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
And we look, and then the next show leads to, who is the SmackDown Vandal?
Wow. Yikes.
Folks.
Yeah.
Way and I are available.
I like it.
Okay, let's get into SmackDown.
Yeah.
This has been already too long. We had a recap of the SmackDown invasion to start the show. We're in Milwaukee, by the way. And opening up the show was Michael Cole asking if retaliation is in the forecast. And it sounded like Michael Cole. But then I saw the keys come up for the graphics, and I didn't realize Tom Phillips has aged. He was listed as Tom Phillips, which I'm not going to throw too much criticism at, because that once did happen to me at the Fight Network, where I was keyed as Candice DeVay. So it happens. It happens. But man, this does not happen in WWE.
Oh, yeah, well. Maybe one more week of this. We'll see if they get it next week.
I don't think he was. I'm sure it would have been brought up had he been keyed as Tom Phillips last week. But anyway, Tom Phillips should be back pretty soon. Shane McMahon comes out. There are chants of welcome back after missing 2 weeks of SmackDown. He plugs the Survivor Series and says he learned at a young age that when you're going into a fight to strike first, and that's why they went to Raw. He said that Angle called him desperately for a replacement on Sunday to get AJ Styles. So Shane says he devised a plan to send Styles and keep him there on Monday. This was all a plan for AJ to work alongside Rollins and Ambrose.
Okay, sure. What does that mean? Did AJ just did AJ acquire a backstage pass as a result of his working on Raw, and he just kind of did he passed the pass around to each member of the roster so that they could sneak in when you used to sneak into movies? You ever do that?
I remember you could go to Scarborough Town Center and you could buy a ticket and get in, and you could leave a movie and then just go back and forth. And me and my dad would always do this. And then it was as I got older, realized this is definitely not allowed. And I was of the impression that it's oh, this is a great theater. You buy one ticket and you can go to as many movies as you want.
Yeah.
Me and my dad once saw 3 movies in one day.
I'm surprised that your dad went along with this terrible criminal activity.
He was, listen, I paid my dues later. I worked at a movie theater, so I gave way more back to the movie industry than I took from it.
Free.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't work for free. I was close to working for free when I started there. Minimum wage was something else in 2001. So, this was his whole plan. He says that is when #Under Siege was unleashed. It's not Under Siege. It's not Operation Under Siege. It is #Under Siege.
#Under Siege, yes.
Holy Christ. And then, hey, to my dismay, the audience starts chanting Under Siege, which I thought Shane was going to correct them and make them chant #Under Siege. And he says they won't be caught off guard tonight because they're ready. And then comes Sami Zayn, who comes out and he's clearly just playing the asshole ska enthusiast. And comes out dancing around. And he tells Shane no hard feelings. And he goes to shake his hand, and Shane will not shake his hand. Shane asks why Zayn didn't care about his own physical health at Hell in a Cell like he did Owens and cost him the match. Zayn says if Shane was standing here as a competitor and not as the commissioner, I'd drop you in a second. But maybe that is for another day. And maybe that is what the next month should be called. But maybe that is for another day. Because that's what everything is until after Survivor Series. Zayn says that Kevin Owens and him are willing to be part of Team SmackDown and carry the load because Shane needs them. Shane says, I don't want you representing us. And if you want to be on the team, you're going to have to beat an opponent tonight, and the winner will get on the team. And that opponent is Randy Orton.
Yes, that's right. Sami Zayn versus Randy Orton. I think, it was a segment like this where I was at least hoping for some type of explanation about the invasion, some motive behind the invasion. And
what was the plan? Strike first.
I mean, it was a plan. They tied it into AJ, but still nothing beyond, hey, it's November, it's brand versus brand, therefore we have to pull out all the stops. Yeah, okay.
That's it. Yeah, we got to win this match. Yeah. Because look at the wave of momentum we had after last year. Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods took on Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable with the Usos on commentary. This was the best. They've got a new sponsor on SmackDown. It is Jolly Rancher. And Michael Cole has to do this read several times during the show. This match is brought to you by Jolly Rancher. Keep on sucking. And the Usos reply, what? It was just great. And it was under their breath, too. It was like a genuine reaction to this tagline. Keep on sucking. Cole mentions that Gable attacked his partner Jason Jordan to emphasize how personal this is, this feud between SmackDown and Raw. Woods and Kingston double-teamed Benjamin and ended with a Woods elbow drop. They went through a commercial break. The Usos kept saying Shelton Benjamin's name over and over again, like he was, I don't know how to describe the delivery. It was very sexual in nature.
I don't know if it was sexual. I think it was just, I don't know, emphasizing what a big deal Shelton Benjamin is to them.
Gable hit a flying clothesline to Kingston, and then Gable sent Woods into the ropes, and Benjamin, on the apron, kicked Xavier in the back. And Gable pinned him via a kick to the back.
Yeah. a really fast-paced match, but the finish was definitely kind of out of nowhere from just a kick.
Kick out of nowhere.
Yeah. And
wonder if that'll be a meme.
Yep, and Gable pins.
So those are your next challengers, although that's not who the Usos are going to be facing at Survivor Series. We'll have to save that for another day.
Yeah.
Another new day. Charlotte, Becky, Naomi, Tamina, Lana, and Carmella are backstage. Carmella has lost her briefcase. Daniel Bryan walks in, says all of them will be part of the Survivor Series women's team. But Lana says there's 6 of us. And Bryan replies, well, not you. And Charlotte volunteers to be the captain. Becky says, you weren't even there last night. And Bryan says, we're going to have a fatal 5-way tonight to determine who will be the important captain of this team. Who is going to lead our team into battle?
Mm-hmm.
Then we had Jolly Rancher. Clearly they got the secondary tier of sponsorship because that requires a archived clip.
Oh, they had a whole thing with Kurt Angle at the end afterwards. Did you see?
Well, I saw this where they showed the milk truck angle.
No, they had a skit with Kurt Angle.
I didn't see this at all.
Oh, okay. So later on, they had a skit where Kurt Angle did some generic, there's going to be some match tonight, and that happens later on, or whatever. And then the crowd...
Was this on Sportsnet, or did you watch
it was on Sportsnet.
US feed? Oh, okay, I totally missed this.
So then Kurt Angle comes through the curtain in the back, and it's the Jolly Rancher cartoon characters.
I don't know how I missed this.
They're like reacting, and then you hear like hit Angle's song, and you hear "You Suck" in the background, and there's a producer backstage who gives Kurt a candy, and Kurt takes a candy, and then the producer says, "Keep on sucking, Kurt."
Oh, because of "You Suck."
They also killed one of the creatures.
Oh.
He squashed one of the creatures.
I need to find this.
You need to.
I'm sure I'm going to see it at some point. But yeah, to plug the Jolly Rancher thing, they showed a Kurt Angle, the milk truck angle from 2001, which is just very weird. Like, could you imagine a sponsor like Burger King coming on in 2001, and to push Burger King, we pull up a clip of Paul Orndorff from 1986 to push Burger King today.
If Paul Orndorff was on their current TV, I suppose.
Okay, I guess. I mean, this is just talking about like how random.
I guess it's Kurt Angle, right?
Michael Cole says that security has been set up to avoid a Raw retaliation tonight, and boy, was this security on point on Tuesday night. Then we had the Fashion Dogs segment as a spoof on Reservoir Dogs, and I will say a spoof and not a tribute. Fandango and Breeze are arguing about who is Mr. Pink. They're both Mr. Pink. And they have James Ellsworth tied up. The Ascension comes in, or as Breeze refers to him as the Ascension. The Ascension on Tuesday night SmackDown. Connor drinks from the gasoline that he has brought in, and they threaten to cut his chin off.
Ellsworth.
Yeah, Ellsworth's chin instead of his ear.
Yeah.
I wanted to carve my eyes out. Carmella then walks in and has the briefcase. She's found it. They open up the briefcase, and there's dirty underwear inside of it. Carmella grabs James and says he's in big trouble.
What was the dirty underwear in reference to?
It was Ellsworth's underwear somehow.
Was it a Reservoir Dogs reference?
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't think it is.
Huh.
Granted, it's been a decade since I've watched that movie, so please, folks, let us know if we're overlooking a key plot point from Reservoir Dogs. So then they go back. Carmella and Ellsworth leave. They bring up the Bludgeon Brothers, again being 2B. Breeze is confused about the B and Brothers and whether the B is silent. This ended with the promise of next week a Stranger Things parody. This was awful. This was the worst one they have done, and I don't have high hopes. Like, these could be... If these were cleverly put together, I could see these really being great. This was awful. This was void of any creativity.
Well, I feel like these are just really starting to become excuses for the production staff to make these parody show opening videos, because I feel like 90% of the effort seems to be placed there and only 10% really on the actual skit. I mean, you get a chuckle out of some of the references, but week after week now, it's just flat, no real storyline development, and a lot of jokes that are just kind of non sequiturs that don't really hit either.
No, this one was, I thought, the worst one they've done. Brian is with Shane, and Brian says, are we going to talk about what happened on Monday? And it's established it was all Shane's idea. He didn't inform Daniel Bryan, and Bryan doesn't agree with Shane's decision about what he did. And Shane says, well, I am the commissioner. I overrule you, and sometimes I've got to make decisions. That's the job description. Bryan says, that's fine. I'm here to give my input, and that's my job description. So we have the two authority figures at odds over this invasion tactic.
It's a really interesting dynamic they have between these two. I think unlike the rest of the roster, I feel like they're playing within the boundaries of the Daniel Bryan character and how he would react to something like this, It's what I want to see with more of the roster, some internal conflict between some of these characters who need to be convinced from Shane to get them going along with the attack. Somebody like a Daniel Bryan, who is a noble babyface, would not justifiably go with something like that unless he was provoked, unless he was somehow rightfully convinced by Shane McMahon. And that's what I feel was missing from the angle for so many of the other characters, particularly your babyfaces, even your heels.
Well, this one, I don't want to say Shane is being portrayed as a heel. I mean, he's justifying his actions, that
Right.
he is trying to get the first strike in, they're going to war. But I will say this, of both rosters, Shane is among the most popular at the moment. And you've got this red-hot feud with Owens and Zayn that now you're kind of muddying those waters where Shane is supposed to be this babyface counter to Owens and Zayn, and that all has to be forgotten as Shane now plays this pseudo-bullying authority figure, and Daniel Bryan is now kind of in that babyface authority position. And it's just, to me, it's messing up a lot of things we're saving for another day. Mm-hmm. And the Owens-Zayn feud with Shane, to me, it takes a big step back, and we'll talk about that later. They're trying to continue it, but I think they're trying to serve many masters now. Baron Corbin, Sin Cara. I don't know if this was a title match or non-title match. It didn't really matter, coming off of the countout win last week. Corbin just nails him with strikes. Sin Cara then comes back. He leaps off the middle rope with a back elbow and hits a pair of suicide dives and a missile drop kick. Got a 2 count on Corbin. And then Corbin comes back into the ring, drops Sin Cara, and in the corner, he does the Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, but safe forearms to Sin Cara. And he won't stop, and the bell is called at 2.5 minutes. So Sin Cara wins a second time by DQ, which Michael Cole was trumpeting as a major accomplishment. Sin Cara has won two weeks in a row.
Did he win last week by DQ?
He won by countout.
Oh, okay.
And this one he won by his face caving in by DQ. And then Sin Cara was laid out on the floor with the end of days, and the crowd, getting behind Sin Cara, chanted one more time.
Well, they've managed to drag this out for another week, and
these two going to be buddies for the next invasion? Will they both have shirts on together?
Yeah, because
brothers in arms?
Because this feud is personal, John. It's Raw versus SmackDown. Just turn your brain off, okay, and enjoy it.
Then we got another invasion recap with Twitter videos from everybody with their Under Siege hashtag. The Singh brothers then do a mock introduction for Jinder Mahal, a spoof of Paul Heyman's introductions. Mahal comes out and calls Paul Heyman a liar. They air parts of Heyman's promo from Raw, and Mahal calls him a used car salesman. Jinder earned everything he's received in the WWE. He's the most powerful man here. He dominated Orton, out-wrestled Nakamura. He says he's not Lesnar's equal or contemporary. He's Lesnar's worst nightmare. And he will prove that to the human walrus that the Jinder Mahal era has just begun. And this led to AJ Styles coming out with his new T-shirt with a giant 1 on it. The phenomenal one.
Yeah. I like Mahal's delivery here. He felt very angry and passionate. I think he's definitely shown improvement on the mic.
AJ took on Sunil Singh, with Jinder ejected at the start of the match, and Samir got onto the apron. Styles went after him, and then Sunil came from behind but got rolled into a calf crusher and tapped out in 35 seconds. Sami Zayn is backstage, and Kevin Owens walks in. Owens has returned, and he spoke to Daniel Bryan. He's going to have his own qualifying match to get on the team next week when Owens takes on Shinsuke Nakamura. Zayn says that they're both going to win, and it will be Team Kevin and Sami. And then Owens corrects him and states, no, it will be Team Sami and Kevin.
Yes.
By the way, last week we brought up our friend Pat LaPrade on TVA Sports, and I was saying on the show, you were asking, and who's the co-host? And I blanked on the guy's name. Well, his name is Kevin Raphael, who's a big listener of ours.
Oh, cool.
And I heard from him over the week. So
yeah, this is my name.
I felt pretty guilty that I blanked on his name last week. Anyway, so there you go.
Kevin Raphael
and Pat LaPrade, the voice. By the way, did you see the French call on the tables, ladders, and chairs match?
Yeah, I saw Matthew post it.
Oh, man. That was hilarious. The lead guy, who was not Pat LaPrade, who just yells, I am the table. You need to watch this clip.
What was he thinking? Like, what was he trying to say?
I don't think he was lost in translation. I think he was trying to embody the structure of which Dean would not go through. But it was just a great line.
I am the table.
Maybe it was a comment about his unwillingness to break as an announcer.
Wow. Okay.
Daniel Bryan's in his office. Jinder storms in. He's furious. He wants revenge on AJ, and then he looks to Samir. So Styles and Samir will have a match next week. Samir says it will be phenomenal, and Jinder tells him to shut up. And Bryan says they made the same joke last week. So I guess Styles and Jinder, again, going to be saved for another day. We'll have AJ beat Samir. Then we'll get a handicap match.
Sure.
Then we'll get a buffer with Survivor Series, and then we can eventually get to Jinder.
How many weeks until Survivor Series?
4 weeks. I guess 3.5.
Well, so they could do the match before that.
Why would you do it on TV though?
Why not?
You've got a pay-per-view in December.
You can't drag this out all the way till then.
Okay, what is Jinder's December title match then?
Something else.
Like what?
Rematch with AJ Styles, maybe.
From TV?
You really think they're going to drag this thing out and save that match all the way until December?
Wait, they're making us wait a week to see Samir Singh versus AJ Styles.
Yeah. But then they have how many more weeks until that December show?
After Survivor Series?
Yeah.
3 or 4?
That's 7 weeks. They're not going to extend this for 7 more weeks.
I think they will.
Place your bets now.
Okay. The actual title match. We'll see.
Okay.
Maybe. Next up, we had Carmella, Becky, Tamina, Naomi, and Charlotte in a fatal 5-way match. Before the match, Natalya brought in Greg Hamilton to introduce her, put over all of her accolades. Tamina and Carmella were left alone. Carmella took a Samoan drop. They went through a commercial. Charlotte hit a fallaway slam to Tamina on the floor, and then Naomi is swung into the barricade. Charlotte knocks down Lana, so Tamina super kicks Charlotte into oblivion. We never saw her again in this match. Carmella then took Naomi, tossed her into the post. She's in alone with Becky and was caught in the disarmor, and Carmella tapped out. So Becky is the captain.
Becky is the captain. Good for Becky. She stood out in that attack for sure. She also hasn't really been in the title picture for a long, long time, so I think this is a way to put some attention back on her, maybe to set her up for another title shot afterwards.
Wai's highlight, the weekly Bludgeon Brothers video. And yes, we have a transcription here.
Oh, yes.
Danger makes the impossible possible. Horror makes the unthinkable a reality. Now really focus on this. Up is down. Down is up. Dark is light, and light is dark. We can do anything because we fear nothing. Harper, Rowan, Bludgeon Brothers.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote this, and these two fools had to recite it. Up is down, and dark is light. F off. God, this is stupid. Renee has to react to this, and then Dolph walks in. This was a perfect segue.
How many times do you think they had to rehearse this?
Dude, this was a shoot. Like, they went out and did a shoot.
No, the characters, I mean. Like Harper and Rowan, they must have, like, they must have practiced this a few times.
Yeah, what take do you think this was?
I don't know.
Up is dark and dark is shit.
The outtakes are what I want to see.
So Ziggler outlines the structure of an awful promo here and stating how they work. I regurgitate a bunch of lines no one wants to hear, and then people pop for the catchphrase at the end. So then he goes on, he mimics The Rock, and then he says, I told you so. Regarding Bobby Roode being just an entrance, he's a fraud, and he beat Bobby Roode last week. Bobby Roode enters the scene. Ziggler says they aren't friends just because they worked together last night when they invaded Raw. Roode says, I just like to fight. He's Fit Finlay.
I think that's the entire roster. That's the blanket excuse for anybody. I just like to fight.
I like to commit assault. It's just fun. We murdered a PA and destroyed a television set. And he says he had the time of his life last night. The time of his life. Yeah. At the age of 80, when Bobby Roode is in Peterborough, Ontario, on his deathbed, and they say, Bobby, was it all worth it? 80 years of memories? Yeah. October 23rd, I was in a blue t-shirt amidst my anonymous coworkers who all blended into the background, and we attacked Raw. Flatline. Out. Glorious life. Oh my God. So Bobby Roode and them argue, and they establish that they have each won one match. Then Ziggler replies, I beat you once, I beat you twice, and Roode interrupts him. I thought to say, no, you've only beat me once, but no, Bobby says, wait, I think you're onto something. Next week, 2 out of 3 falls match. And Ziggler says, okay, I hope your ego can take losing twice in one night. And Bobby, you wouldn't believe this, said next week will be glorious.
Yeah. Well, they have another chance to redeem themselves by delivering a great match with this. I know the potential that it still exists with these two, and so with the 2 out of 3 falls match, I still have some high level of expectation, but hopefully they deliver something a bit more impressive than their last 2 outings. I do appreciate the attempt to fill in the plot holes here, explaining that despite teaming together, they're not friends. It still doesn't excuse, I think, a lot of the sloppiness that came out of that, but I think you're going to see a bit more of that.
So we have the 2 out of 3 falls match and Owens Nakamura announced for next week's show. Main event was Sami Zayn against Randy Orton. Zayn comes out, he's just playing around, he's dancing in the ring, and then Orton drops him with an uppercut. Zayn gets thrown at the barricade on the floor, leaps on top, and hits Orton with a moonsault. They come back from break. Orton goes into his sequence of a power slam, setting up for a draping DDT, and then sends Zayn onto the announcer's desk, and he goes for another moonsault, but this time he's caught and dropped on the desk. Zayn lands a high cross for a 2 count, then countered an RKO with a backslide for a 2 count. They go onto the floor. Zayn hits the tornado DDT under the middle turnbuckle, and Orton beats the count back in. Zayn missed with a haluva kick, and then Orton hits the draping DDT, got a big reaction for that, calls for the RKO, and that's when Kevin Owens runs down. Orton goes after him. Zayn hits a schoolboy for a great near fall off the distraction, and then with the referee distracted with Owens, Orton low blows Zayn as retribution for last week and hits the RKO, pins Sami Zayn, and then Orton stares down Owens. So Randy Orton is on the team. Sami Zayn is not. And that was our main event.
Yeah. I would assume that maybe Owens would lose next week too, and obviously so that you could have Nakamura on the team. And so
Owens and Zayn could theoretically, because they don't have anything for the Survivor Series, maybe they are left off and they cost SmackDown the match.
Yeah, sure.
And that gets you back to Shane against Owens and Zayn for them costing them their Under Siege plan.
Now, what if they're not left off?
What if they're on the team?
No, or just in another match.
Who would you even match them with?
Somebody on Raw. I don't know. Anyway, it was interesting for me to see Sami Zayn work as a heel in this match because I think almost everything we've seen of his is geared towards him playing an underdog babyface with spectacular moves. So, he still did all those moves, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. Just because you're a heel doesn't mean you can't use cool moves. I mean, Kevin Owens uses a lot of very impressive looking moves, but he's still the most hated guy on the show. So, it's curious to see going forward, even more so, how Sami Zayn will adapt his style to fit this new role.
And then the final scene was Shane and Bryan back in the office, and they note Raw didn't strike tonight. And Bryan says, well, they're going to eventually, and Shane's going to have to deal with the consequences. So I know everyone was expecting it on Tuesday night, the Raw retribution. And for that reason, I was kind of glad they didn't do it. And it left you this attack is coming, and it's left you guessing. And you've put a lot of heat on the Raw team to respond, and they just got totally decimated on Monday. So how do they plan this attack? And it's going to come in a future week. Maybe you hold it off until the week before Survivor Series. I really did not mind us doing the 50-50 style of, well, now Raw comes and they take out the SmackDown team on Tuesday.
Yeah, I do think you hold it off until the go-home show. And you're building anticipation for it. And I think the anxiety that you will see in the characters will be something that'll be interesting.
And you may also want Roman Reigns to lead that attack, and he's not available at the moment.
Interesting. Yeah, sure. I do, again, enjoy Bryan's shades of gray characterization here. I think he's probably the best part of the invasion so far. I think it adds some depth and complexity to the whole thing. Just because he's with SmackDown doesn't mean he'll blindly slide with any attack. So it's stories like that that I'm interested to see coming out of this, what feels like a forced pay-per-view.
Yeah, and again on Tuesday, just like Monday, I definitely get the feel of it's going to be Angle and Shane as
captains.
Whether they're the captains or not, they're going to be the focal points, which you can argue whether that is how much that kind of overshadows the other guys on the team. This more feels like Angle versus Shane than it does even Raw versus SmackDown.
For that particular match, I don't really dislike it. I mean, they are the leaders of those matches, and they do have that personal history with each other.
Well, we will see where things progress. That was SmackDown. Average show. I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't
seem
to be anything of a extreme note, either good nor bad. That is it, though. We are going to wrap up the video version of Review of SmackDown. But don't forget to download the audio version of Review of SmackDown up at liveaudiowrestling.com. You can also grab it off of iTunes, and you can hear our thoughts on American Vandal. We're going to go through your feedback, and that's about it.
Did you watch 205 Live?
I did watch 205 Live.
We'll chat a bit about that, too.
Okay, we'll chat about 205 Live as well. So lots of stuff to download as well. We've got The Law from Sunday night. We've got Review a Raw up with Wai Ting, just hours back from his trip across many time zones. And we have our full interview up with Jimmy Jacobs that you can catch up at liveaudiowrestling.com, discussing his departure from the WWE, his time there, various people he worked with, including Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. All of that is up there, and we will chat with you later on this week. We've got What's Next coming your way, the MMA report. There is not going to be a Keep It 2000 week. We will update you on that. The show is coming back. But there will be, in its place, a Bauer and Pollock show this coming Friday. So that is it for us. We will chat with you later on.
SmackDown.